Good afternoon. Hello. Happy Tuesday. This is Dr. Robin Gould, and you are on Messianic Lamb Radio. And we have our non-radio presentation. I always like to say the radio part because I think I might want to be able to try to put some into podcast, but I want to remember to keep saying radio. But anyway, I'm so glad, Messianic Lamb Network, that you're back at this channel and that you are part of this show today, because as I'm talking to you, you're a part of this and you are the reason. So I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. And if you're new to the program, I am one of the Becky book authors, BEKY, Building and Encouraging the Kingdom of Yeshua. Books available on Amazon. These are startup books and even, I would say, books for some people that maybe haven't done a deep dive into some of the topics that we cover, but they're very interesting. All women authors. Go ahead and check those out. And today, we meet every week, and so I'm going to have a little bit of a harsh word today. I don't mean it to be harsh, and that is a little unusual for the context I usually bring. But because I am an attachment specialist, I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I have a doctorate in religious education. I'm an attachment specialist. So I'm always about attaching with my audience, bonding with you, and pursuing destiny from the arms of a loving Father who, yes, disciplines, yes, accepts, yes, loves, yes, prods and pokes and pushes and does all the things a good parent does. But today I just have a little bit of a feisty show, because there's a couple of things that do need to be said. And we have to be careful that we aren't always so beta, right? That we're never alpha toward really good things, that sometimes we do need a little bit of a kick in the tushy, right? We do need a little bit of that. I'm going to try to beat the algorithm here with not saying a lot of words that might be weird for algorithms, if you know what I mean. But I do want to talk about a couple things that might be a little more sensitive. But hey, you know what? If we can't talk about sensitive things, what can we talk about? When I'm hearing people talking about, like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about child rearing. Well, what is there to talk about? Because everything is about these things these days. So I'm not going to be a generican and not talk about things. So we're going to get into a couple things. We're going to get into the portion, but I have I want to put this in a context to help you move forward. Because what do I always say every week is the future begins now. And I mean that. I don't just say that as my little happy tagline that you can remember, but the future does begin now. The things that you need, want, can do are going forward. They happen now. They don't happen 5 minutes ago. What do they say? The tree that you want to sit on next year, you better have planted it 10 years ago. So the idea is that if you want a tree, plant it now and you'll be able to have it. So I don't think I quoted that exactly right, but you get the point of what I'm trying to say. So the future begins now, and that is our future. And so our future is now. So let's talk about, I have this teaching today. It's called Camels and Gnats. Okay, so you're going to see why, because you might even be familiar with there's talks about that in the New Testament. It's a very specific point about, you swallow camels and you strain gnats, meaning in the broader context, you aren't upset about these big, huge things, but you're just all about these little tiny things. And that's been something that's been discussed quite a bit in culture in the last, I'm going to say 5 years, particularly, about offenses, about what is the most important thing. And even in our political realm, we've had a very large dialogue that's gone largely nowhere in groups of people who don't ever listen, and yet at the same time has been very helpful for people who do and who are willing to shift perspective for a greater purpose. What I mean by that, and I'm going to go right into political correctness. That's one of the things that we've had a lot of discussion about. We've had a prominent figure in our world, and he has not been politically correct. In fact, to the point that it really, really upsets people. I think there's a lot to this. I think there's a lot more to it than people think. Now, I'm a therapist. I've been doing this for 24 years. I've been sitting in front of people, listening to them, talking to them, researching, studying, getting up various degrees, getting getting double degrees. I mean, I have worked really hard and I know a few things. And one of the things that I do know is that people are quite resentful of other people who are not going to be fake. They're not going to care really what you think. They're not really so contrived in their image, and they take liberties there. And I think some people, I'm not saying this is the only reason that people are triggered by that, but some people, they want to take those liberties, but their system, as they know it, does not allow for it. So they hate the person who does. So that's just a theory and a part of a group that might resonate with you. I'm not saying that resonates with everybody. We're not cookie cutter people, and it isn't one size fits all. But when you, just to take this, to illuminate my point, just to use a point to be made here, that we can have really important issues that we're facing, really big issues, like abortion, like issues concerning Israel, the issue of overreaching government, many things that are really, really important. And we can, and you've seen this happen. I don't care. These things, these platforms of these ideas aren't as important to me as, I don't like the way that person said that sentence. And then, right? Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? So here's a very controversial take on this, and whatever, just trust that I have an opinion. I trust you do. And I think your opinions, I think you come by them honestly with your experiences behind them. And every different opinion helps this world be what it is. And I'm not judging you if you disagree with me. I bring this up for the sake of discussion, for us to understand each other. So when people have a different opinion, especially about these more controversial matters, which to me it's not controversial, but to other people it is, I honor you for your opinion. I'm not judging you. And I'm not even saying you're wrong. I'm just going to talk about what I think is going on. The allergies are starting. Do you see it? I don't know what it is, but something about when I start talking to you, I have to keep wiping my nose. Okay. So one of the things we do is we get offended. We get offended. So what is offense about? Offense isn't about God. It's about you. It's about me. Now, I get offended. I'm not lying to you. I'm not going to pretend. I'm so here to talk to you about how I never get offended, and maybe you can be like me. I'm talking to me. I'm talking to us about being offended and taking that offense and putting that on top of, layering that atop of as the priority about what we do, think, and allow into our world. So a person can, let me just give you an example. Not everybody is really easy to deal with. People put in certain power positions, even like, I remember a woman worked at an animal, it was a humane society. And the boss there wasn't that polite to her. And so she had volunteered, and she's like, they're not really that nice to me. So I'm not working there anymore. Okay, so clearly you're volunteering to help these animals, but the person wasn't nice. Now, I love this person that loves animals, right? But do you hear what's being said? The objective is that someone's kind to me, not that I'm helping animals. So clarify your objective with yourself and let that offense go if the greater good is that animals are getting your help. Does that make sense? Who cares about that? Is that why you're there, to be treated well? Or are you there because other animals aren't being treated well and you're part of that solution? Offense can undermine your goals as a person, right? It can undermine our spiritual goals massively. And I think we've seen in the political realm, and I might take heat for that, and I'm good with that. I like heat. Bring it on. I actually have a heating pad on my lap because I'm cold. So bring on the heat. I don't care. But when I'm seeing people, particularly women and men, which are the only people there are, just FYI there, when I see people and they're offended over a sentence or what they said in the past, the issue isn't we condone that sentence. No, we just don't care about it. Because the bigger issue, if somebody is in a governing position who's in charge of the Humane Society, that doesn't matter. It's how is this Humane Society being run and our animals being served and protected and rescued? That's the important thing. What's happening with the unborn? What's happening with overreaching government, that beast system we need to be separate from and not completely always gnawed at by, right? What's happening with our relationship with our brother Judah? We are allies. What's happening there? But I'm offended as a woman by a sentence or an attitude or a previous attitude. I'm offended. So this is where we are idolizing ourselves. We are idolizing ourselves over an offense. And you know what we're doing? We idolize ourselves over an offense. We put that above the needs of the unborn and of our alliance with our brother Judah. And with all of the things of government that we just need to be less involved, less in handcuffs, I'm going to say. Not to be dramatic, but really. Have we idolized ourselves? Now, many, many, many more people in this country have not idolized themselves. And I'm so proud of that. Many, many, many more people, whether they got the credit for it or not, because I don't think they did, they showed up and they said, you know what? I'm not going to be offended. I don't care. This leadership isn't the core of my moral compass of everything I need in my spiritual world. And this isn't my pastor. This is my country. These are my values that are in a larger context of creating a country that I can live free in. So, and that the unborn and the vulnerable among us are free. So I just think that, I don't know if you think that's a harsh word, but really, are we idolizing ourselves? Are we taking our feminine needs over world needs? World needs. Our country is a stabilizing force in this world. Now, why are we bringing this up now, Robin? We have, what? I'm going to tell you why. Because if we don't shift our attitudes, regardless of what's going on around us, we will continue to worship ourselves or create a God we make with our own hands, who is all about political correctness. And when you read the Bible, it is so not politically correct, it's just not even funny. And I really just want people to just get out of that beta, weak place. And I just want you to stand a little taller, walk a little further, and challenge yourself a little more to let go of your personal offense. It's very, very important that we do that. And no matter what happens in the next few months or whatever we think or don't think in the next 4 years, we have to get better, even though we have come a long way, right? I've seen a massive improvement in a lot of things. I'm so proud of so much. But we do have to go to the next level. We're called now next level bravery. Okay. Did I offend you? Sorry. Bring the heat on. I'm cold. It's fine. Okay. I want to give you an example of an offense and how this can hurt our country and actually our world and just hurt you as an individual even, right? This can hurt you. So I just want to tell you this. Recently, it was proposed or passed into law, and I don't know where that stands now, but just the idea. We're talking about the idea where people who are unsure in their own minds of biology that they possess. So I want to beat the algorithm and not bring these terms up. Do we get that? You know what I'm saying? Okay. The idea that would be that would be allowed. People that struggle with that profound, painful, sort of unusual problem, right? Which is getting more common. You know, as we introduced new dramas, we all many people jump in. But as we have these things going on, it's been introduced or proposed or passed. I don't know, because I need to I'm not talking about that. I want to talk about the idea that they would serve in the military. That this would be in the military. Now, let's just bring a little context to this because I want to show you about the tail wagging the dog. I want to talk to you about how offense has reigned supreme in this country. That's why we have cancel culture. That's why I have to speak in code. Let's talk about that. I have a son who's in the Marine Corps. Getting into the Marine Corps is no easy thing. They look at your high school, grades, your record. They check you out, right? You go through PT testing. You go through all kinds of things. You have to be mentally sound and fit and able to deal with the rigors of the military. Because even if you're not infantry, and you know what? I don't even like that sentence, even if you're not infantry. I'm going to tell you something. People that serve in the military, I don't care what they do or where they're going, it is not easy. Very especially in the Marine Corps, but in all branches, but not easy. Not easy for the families, not easy for the Marine. And they go through a lot. You have to be able to manage being told what to do, not questioning it. And they have their reasons. Now, I'm a mother of a Marine, so hey, you're going to hear me complain about the things mothers don't like all day, all night, and twice on Sunday. And I'm not afraid to do that, and that's fine. I love our country. I haven't always loved everything about things my son has always had to do, right? Because I'm a mother and I was offended. Do you get what I'm saying? But here's what they do. This is their premise. We're going to tell you, you do this way, this exact thing. Well, that seems stupid. Why can't I just do it? There's 3 different ways to do it. No, you will do it exactly our way over and over, and every time we do it. And if you don't do that, we're going to come down hard on you. Well, I'm not trying to lobby hard for the Marine Corps and things where I'm like, might be a mother who's like, does not have a snowflake kid, but I, have a son that I'm like, wow, that sounds like everything I hear about the Marine Corps from all the people who've been in the Marines. That sounds really hard or whatever. But this is their theory. If we tell you to do it this way and you just become used to doing everything we say just the way we say it, when you need to do exactly what we say and you don't know why, it's called strategy. It means that you're going to be given a mission. You don't know the whole mission. You're not supposed to know. But we'll be able to tell you, you do this, do this, do this. And you are so conditioned to do everything we say exactly the way you say it that you're not going to get killed or get your buddies killed. That makes sense to me. Do I love it? I don't know. On a personal level, my offense, my kid who didn't care about any of that was totally on board. He thinks it's great. I'm a mother. But you know what? I don't want my kid or anybody else dead. So you do what you're told. That's where you voluntarily enlist into a system that you agree you're going to agree with everything. Okay, that's what you've signed up for. It's just an example. Okay, do you see how that worked? If my offense got listened to and I could call, which I would never do, but if I could call and say, I really feel like you're too picky, they might be like, okay, how picky will you be when your son's dead? Okay, that's the cold hard reality of the military. Now, let me take this into another place. Let's get out of my offense and my confession here. But let's talk about this. Imagine if this is implemented. I just want you to get a picture. Our offense over somebody doesn't accept that I'm struggling with this and I want to be called this when I'm born this and everyone sees me as this. Let me tell you something. We have, and I want you to wrap your head around this. We have 800 military bases, more than, in over 70 countries. I want you to picture, okay? When this gets implemented, there are a lot of dominoes that need to fall to make it work. I'll tell you something about the military. You are one with your brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps, right? I speak from Marine Corps because that's my main experience. My husband's an Air Force veteran, but my main experience, my family, they're Marines. And you shower all together. You go to the bathroom all together, right? Everything is all together. That's a very expensive proposition to introduce the mingling of people who might be uncomfortable with. Now, here you're saying, so the people are offended? Yes, everyone's offended. And this goes beyond offense because it does go into our biological safety with the G word. I don't like to say it. Start G, and then the next letter is E. And then you're going to see the word N, and then D. And then, have you ever gone to the ER? That's a word. This issue. This is an expensive proposition. This requires laboratory additions. It requires counseling for the other people who aren't comfortable with this. It requires a softening of something that's supposed to be hard and rock hard and like massively difficult. It confuses these missions. It confuses because someone's offended that in their struggle, in their non-common issue, that for the few or whatever, I don't know, we have to alter 800 military bases in over 70 countries. There's a lot more to this than just the social justice some people want to see. You really got to think about how does it work? And so that's what I want to talk about with our tour portion today. Bathrooms in the Marine Corps. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Life is life. And the Bible is life. And we need to know today how to live. Okay? Now, I don't know everything about how to live today, but I know this piece. So I just hear me out. Give me a chance to talk about what we need to do here. So the beast system that we live in, right? This controlling government. And we've seen this, right? If you've not seen it, you have a toe tag because the government in cahoots with big tech has censored. It's all kinds of things going on. And we have to be really careful to show respect for our government. And I do. And like I said, I'm a patriot. And we need to be really concerned and careful and peaceful. And we need to be good patriots. Sure, yes. But believers don't depend on government to sustain them. They depend on the Lord our God, right? We don't depend on government to be our moral compass. And in fact, stay out of my religion, right? Let me practice it free. Let me pursue the happiness I want, defend my borders, and protect my rights. That's what we're patriots for. That's what we do. The beast system that seeks to get involved in your religion and involved in your child rearing and involved and in control. First they get involved and help fund things and then they control you. That's how it works. That's the slippery slope that we're in. I'm sorry, this is a hard word today, but I really want to talk about slavery. Slavery to political correctness. Slavery to the idolization of our own offenses. We are slaves to that because it's dominating our culture and now it's dominating our rights, eroding them. Our offenses, not mine and yours, you're probably on tracking with me here, but the offenses of some are coming at a cost to us. We don't like it. All right, so let's talk a little more. Now, there's something that's called the straw man theory. Some people don't believe it. Some people do. But everybody accepts it as a concept of slavery. As a concept. So I'm not talking about it as a theory, but go ahead and research it, see what you think. But anyway, as just a reality of, it's a vernacular that means slavery. Okay. Now, the straw man is the fictitious part of yourself, right? In the context, we'll talk about it. It's like your fake self, your counterfeit self, your chameleon to please the group self. Okay, now let's talk about that. I'm a therapist, so let me tell you something. I see everything, like more than everything, all the time. And you would be very surprised at the things that people go through. As you kind of look at your life and you assess it for success, you do inventory on the pieces and parts of your life, and you might wonder how this compares with other people. And you know, I talk a lot here about comparison being the thief of joy. Well, for sure. The straw man that we have, the false self, that's just another word for false self. You know, I talk about the false self quite a bit. Go back in my earlier teachings, you'll see it. I'll see things in people like you would not believe, like the most amazing, confident people that you see from the outside. You're like, they have their life together. They're so, look at that person. They don't have any struggles. They don't have any worries. If I had their life, I wouldn't have the problems I have. Yes, you would. You just have different problems. But you would be surprised at so many people that seem like everything is always good. They're not always good. And in fact, they come to me with issues you never would have thought is going on. I have issues you would never think are going on. I bet you do, deep down. Whatever, I don't know. But we don't really know. Only God knows. God knows us, and he loves us. But I even remember like when my firstborn son was a little baby, I remember I struggled with a bit of postpartum depression. I did not like that. But I always felt like I wasn't quite ever accomplishing in my day what I wish I was, or was I good enough this or that or whatever. And I was just kind of felt, like inside I was a mess. And I remember bringing him to one of his appointments at the pediatrician. And I remember her saying to me, "Oh, hi, so nice to see you, Robin. So great to see you. Your baby's so cute," going through whatever. And she goes, "Boy, you're just always so put together. Just as a new mom, you're so put together." And I'm thinking, okay, well, I took a shower and I brushed my hair and I'm wearing clothes. Put together? I was not put together. I was kind of inside, just always cracking up, you know, and not really understand, but like, that's what you think? And I remember I was just flabbergasted that that's how she saw me. But that's how people see people, right? That's how we see people. It was just quite a lesson for me. But what happens is we become slaves to that beast system, the government, and we become sucked into all the things that it's saying or not saying. Now, the better you get at being a straw man, right? Like the better we get at covering stuff up, the harder it is. Actually, here's my example. The harder it is to get off. I have the perfect example. I'm seeing it right now. I'm going to show you this glass. You see that? You can see that right there. That's lipstick. Now, this lipstick I use because it lasts all day to cover up my lips, to make my lips the same color they are, but look a little better. It is all day lasting. I buy it that way. And I'm going to tell you something. That stuff does not come off. Like when I want to get it off my lips, I have to go through, like I have to use something to get it off. And it gets like on a glass, and it'll survive the dishwasher over and over in the hottest setting until you wipe it off and then wash it again. The longer lasting, the harder it is to get off. The more individual work you have to do on each item it touches. Like, I think it touched one of my sleeves here, like right before I went on air, and I'm like, well, there you go. I don't even know if the dry cleaner can get it out, right? I like to not bring my things to the dry cleaner, but you know what I mean? It's just a principle. It's like the more long lasting you want something to stick on, to cover something up, the harder it is going to work, right? To let go of all that. Well, that's kind of really real. And that's what we're seeing in the portion here. We're seeing that what we should be committed to as we study politics and as we study the beast system is not to become more invested in it for the sake of what it gives us, but to be studying it and learning it so that we can try to help be part of the gatekeepers to keep it away, to keep it off us, right? The more you need something, the more it owns you, right? That's why some people are afraid to get married. They don't want to belong to somebody. But if you have the right loving spouse, for sure, it's great to belong to somebody. Belong to each other, and it's wonderful. I'm going to promise you something. The government will never be that spouse, okay? They will never be the right one for you. We're not to be enslaved to governments. We are not. That's why God said, a king is going to do nothing but give you problems. You want a king government, a monarchy? Good luck with that. Who's going to play all these people in the movie? And there's a lot of people, and they're great stories. But the idea for me to be invested in politics is to help be a part of the solution of keeping it in check away. The government's not my God, right? It's not your God either. It's become a lot of people's God. It's become a lot of people's big daddy, okay? It's become a lot of people's mom, not mine. So some of us get very annoyed when the beast starts getting its talons in our territory. Get away. You have your role, defend my borders, defend my rights, and then shut up. All right. I think I'm with like-minded people. I'm kind of afraid to turn the chat on. Not really, though. Oop, only one comment, so can't be that bad. I haven't been putting the chat on because it's distracting, but shalom. Hi, Laura Lee. Oh gosh, great word. Thank you on the ladybug. Thank you. I appreciate that. See, now I can go on. See, because external reinforcement has made me feel good. Yeah. Okay. So in our portion, we're going to talk about, it's Exodus 13:17. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to go 17 to 16. And actually, no, hold on. Exodus 13. I don't know. I might have my numbers wrong. Bear with me. I'm sorry. It just looks like I misprinted. But it's the part about the pillars of cloud and fire. So you can, I think, yeah, it is 13. I'm starting in verse 17. So here we go. Ready? Because I have a point to make. Okay. We're going to get there. And I wonder what time it is. I don't want to overrun you. Oh, gosh, we're halfway done. Okay. When Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. So he didn't take them the easy, close, convenient, expected, predictable way. And this is why. He gives you the reason. Lest the people change their minds when they see war and then they would return to Egypt. So the first time we encounter something, as we're getting out of slavery, right, we're fleeing. We're saying, no, I don't want your beast system. And actually, let me back up a little and even make this connection, because this might help this portion even come more alive to you. When we think about the straw man, right? What did they use to make these uniform bricks with the taskmasters over them? Straw. Slavery. Here's the straw. Make the bricks, make them uniform. And do it on the hours I tell you to do it. And no, you may not go observe your religion. I'm on a roll. But he says, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So the first time you encounter any resistance or something that looks scary or a giant in the land, you're out of there. Freedom is not free, my friends. We pay a price for it in our personal lives. We pay a price for it in our marriages. We pay a price for it in our government, in our world. It's like freedom, the right type of freedom, where we're connected and committed and observant and patriotic and caring and putting the other first. And at the same time, there needs to be freedom, the right kind of freedom. In every system, it's got its own angle and slant. But what does God do? He leads the people around the way of the wilderness. That's so my life. You get this? I am so in the Bible. Toward the Red Sea. So I'm going to lead you to a dead end. Score. All right. And the people of Israel went up to the land of Egypt, equipped for battle. They were ready for battle. He's not like, you're not going to face battles. What he says is, I'm going to provide you with equipment. I want to be part of the equipment for you. I want this word to be a glittering sword in your hand to say, I'm free. I'm me. I can be who I really am. I can't sin and disobey the Torah and hurt other people. That's never an issue. But who am I? Wonderfully and fearfully made is the individual I am, and not the straw man, uniform bricks like everybody else. So I can appear like I'm like everybody else. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. I love that. You're not just gonna get out. You're gonna take your legacy with you. You're gonna take your founding father with you to this new land of freedom that you were promised. Isn't that amazing? Makes me so happy to say that sentence. For Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, their patriarch's son, Jacob's son, he says, God will surely visit you. He knew. The time's going to come when freedom is going to be a scary dead-end trip and you're going to do it. Okay? And you shall carry up my bones with you from here. And they moved on from Sukkot and encamped at Etham on the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud, foggy cloud, to lead them along the way, and by night a pillar of fire to give them light, that they might travel by day and by night. The pillar of cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night did not depart from before the people. They had enough light to go, whether it was dark or whether it was light. He equipped them for this journey. So then the Lord says to Moshe, and he says, tell the people of Israel to turn back. What? Turn back and encamp between Pi Hahathroth, and I'm sorry, I just butchered that. Look it up. Between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal Zephon. And he says, you shall encamp facing it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, he already knew how Pharaoh thinks, right? What do slave drivers think? This is what they think. For Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, they are wandering in the land. The wilderness has shut them in. Like, you think you can leave your leeks and cucumbers and a steady job, kinda, or whatever we're giving you in our benevolence, where you hate your life to some degree. We don't need to make this walk on all fours. We need this to just trigger in you something, right? This word should trigger something in you. But this is what he's saying. He's like, Pharaoh is going to say, they're just like losers wandering and they're hemmed in and nowhere to go. Like, slaves can't get free. That's what he's saying. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. Harden the heart doesn't mean put an evil thought into Pharaoh. What he's saying is, I'll galvanize that idea for their success so that everybody can see I'm God. Not that he goes against Pharaoh's free will or removes it, right? It's like, I have this belief that something great's going to happen, and the Father says, I'm going to harden your heart on that. It's like, I'm going to seal that in. Thank you, Father. Seal that in, right? He's like, I'm sealing that in. I'm not going to go against. I'm going to let that happen. I'm going to let Pharaoh chase and chase and chase, and he'll pursue them. And he says, I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host. And the Egyptians shall know that I am Lord. And they did so. Well, guess who else knows who's Lord? Pharaoh and all of his army. You know why? They need to know who the Lord is so that they can love him too. So they can say, okay, we're overrun by this bigger thing. I'm not the deity. This is. And that's where their safety comes from, is knowing who Dad is, right? It's win-win. When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed toward the people. So it's like they've left, and Pharaoh's like, wait a second. What have we done? Wait, what have we done? We've let Israel go, our servants? You know, this idea of slavery with all the lice and the frogs and the hail and the blood in the water, like that was really hard. And I did not like that. It was like, okay, go. But then when they're not in the midst of this trial, they're like, I want to be in charge of those people again. I liked it. I got free labor. It was fun. So he made ready his chariot and took his army with him. He took 600 chosen chariots. Now, I think that's interesting because the number 6 stands for man. Many chariots. This means that's the beast system. 6, right? It's like, I'm going to chase you because the beast wants you back because the beast is hungry and you're its food. Now, the beast system, as we're talking, we're using a psychological metaphor and a government metaphor here with Pharaoh. The beast would be, I need to be the bricks and I need to make the bricks. Those are the 2 straw men we're talking about here. Not being able to be who you are, and also just being a slave to a system. That's 2 types of slavery that we're talking about today. We started talking about political correctness, not being able to really be yourself and being afraid about peer pressure or being afraid, whatever. That's a slavery. That's slavery. It's also slavery when your government owns everything you say and tells you can't worship. So he takes 600 chosen chariots and all the other chariots of Egypt. So very specifically, these chosen ones, then these other chariots and the grunts, right? And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And he makes sure he says king and Pharaoh, like this guy's in charge. He's making this decision and everyone's doing what he says. While the people of Israel were going out, and here's the word, defiantly. And it's like, don't be defiant. Don't be offended. In this case, be defiant. Get out of the grasp of the beast system. You weren't born to be somebody else's slave, ever. You were born to be free worshipers of the Lord our God. Be defiant, never violent. March out defiantly away from that with confidence. Defy a system that seeks to enslave you by not expecting stuff from it and not trying to injure it itself will do its own thing. Get out. They weren't like trying to hurt Egypt. They just wanted their own freedom. So they weren't going toward the beast system. They were going away from the beast system. There's a big difference in terms of how we invest our minds in politics. Is it to help that stay away from that beast, or is it to be a part of it for entertainment? Be careful. The Egyptians pursued, so they're defiant, right? The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them and camped at the sea at the places that I mentioned. I don't know how to exactly pronounce them, but you get it. Okay, because you're going to go read the portion. When Pharaoh drew near, Pharaoh's gaining, it's getting closer. Can you imagine how they felt? They'd been enslaved for so long. They're like, this is freedom. Like, what? At least they had Moses telling them what to do, right? Because, little baby steps. Even though what a big thing to leave Egypt and go and sit at a dead end. And it says here, as Pharaoh gains and draws near, it says, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes. And then it says the word behold. Okay. So lifted their eyes, right, would be an idiom in Hebrew. It's like, sort of seeing beyond what they're seeing the future, seeing the meaning, seeing something, right? But here's what happened. They lifted up their eyes And behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And this is when the people of Israel, it doesn't say they complained, it said they cried out to the Lord. And they said to Moshe, they cried out to the Lord in their authentic neediness, fear, slave mentality, whatever it was, they cried out to him. It says, if people forget that, they cried out to the Lord. We're so quick to go to the next sentences. Hear that. And they said to Moshe, is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you've taken us away to die in the wilderness? Do you think that's an honest question? I do. Right? They've been slaves with slave mentality. They had their food. They had a place to live. And they're like, now we're going to die? Are you like that ever? Are you ever like hemmed in and like, am I going to die? Like, why didn't I just whatever? What have you done to us in bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone that we may serve the Egyptians. Okay. That's a 1,000-hour discussion right there. You know, let's not make waves. Let's not rock the boat. It's just, let's shh. Are you ever like that in your family gatherings? Don't talk about things you just don't talk about. And there's wisdom there for sure. Everybody who has a family knows what I'm saying. But he says, for it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. So it's better to live than to die. Okay, so they're honoring life. But that would have been better than what we're seeing here. Because we don't see deliverance, we see slavery. That's what we come out of. That's all we can see is how we're going to fail, how we're going to be captured, how we're going to be punished, mistreated, not valued. We are like that in our systems in our relationships. If I actually speak up, they won't like me. Straw man. And here's what Moshe says to the people. He says, fear not, stand firm, and see the Yeshua of the Lord, the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you will never see them again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent. So they were silent. Were they? They were told to be. And then what's interesting here is that you have verse 14 where he says, really like, the Lord will fight for you and you have only to be silent. And then it doesn't say anything else. And then it says, the Lord said to Moshe, why do you cry to me? But it doesn't say he cried to him. Do anyone have any ideas about that? That's interesting. The people's fear must have been Moshe's fear. That's why Moshe's so like, hey, if I can find 5 good people, what about that? Right? Isn't that interesting? It's like, did he pick the perfect leader? He really did. Because like we talked about in my last teaching last week, I want to go back to, I think it's the 19th, January 19th. We talked about Moshe's a rescuer. He was born a rescuer. He was saved by being rescued in an unusual circumstance. Well, that's his destiny. He was given what he will give. So it's like, why are you crying to me? It's like Moses was this symptom bearer of all the people and their oppression. That touches me. Tell the people of Israel to go forward. Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it, that the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry land. And I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they go in after them, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his host, his chariots, and his horsemen. Now, doesn't it seem so simple? Just lift up your staff, part the sea. Is that so much to ask? Well, Moses had been through quite a bit. He saw the plagues. He saw this stuff happen. Nothing's probably going to make you believe in God than like a million frogs on your porch. Like you said, there'd be a million frogs, and there are a million frogs. Like, okay. And he says, I will harden the hearts of the Egyptians so that they shall go in after them. That's interesting. And I'll get glory over Pharaoh and all his host. Now, what he's saying is, I'm going to harden their heart. That's interesting. Let's just park it here for 1 second. I'm going to harden their hearts. They're going to keep doing stupid stuff that you're like, why are they doing what? How? Why? What? How dumb are they? Well, I'm going to harden their plan. They're going to go and they're going to accomplish their plan. Have you ever felt that way? Why? What? That just seems really obvious. Are they that dumb? Think about your enemy. They do dumb things. They feel untouchable. They feel like nothing can bring them down. They've got this whole thing in their pocket. They're all set. He's like, I'm going to harden their heart and they're going to just go in after you. Even though they've been possessed by lice and frogs and hail and darkness and death and blood in the water. I mean, think of all the things that they went through. And that was not enough to bring them to this place of like, I relent. No. He says, listen, I'm going to harden their hearts. Like they're going to keep going. You're going to see stuff you're not going to believe. And I'm going to get the glory over Pharaoh and his host and his chariots and his horsemen. The Egyptians will know I'm the Lord. He's repeating this. When I've gotten glory over Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. When you see that I am your deliverer, not Moshe, not a court system. They didn't go to court and litigate for their freedom. They escaped, and the Lord gave them weird instructions. They did the weird thing. They went to the dead end so they could be safe and free from an encroaching army. Okay? Then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them. So before them and behind them. That's a beautiful picture, my friend, from an attachment perspective of the way our Father protects us from all angles. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the host of Egypt and the host of Israel. So you started to see them being able to be separated from their slavery, from their captors. But they weren't going to do that on their own. It wasn't like Moses was going to give them a pep talk and say, listen, I was raised in that system and I was the beneficiary of your labor, but now I am here to help you. Isn't that enough of a miracle? It wasn't. Remember the 10 plagues? That probably in their minds, but here it says that the pillar of cloud came between this cloud created a separation between the two camps. I think I take a very strong meaning there. You're going to start getting this. You're going to see, I am separate from that beast system. Leave the beast system. Don't go out and try to hurt it. I'll take care of all the stuff that needs to be hurt. But you know what you need to do? And if you're called to stand and fight, you stand and fight. If you're called, if it comes to you, yes. So, and there was the cloud and the darkness, and it lit up the night without one coming near the other all night. There was safety and rest as they were going through this process of separation out of their slavery into their deliverance to think about freedom. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea. So they had that night of that separation all night long. And the Lord drove the sea back. So Moshe stretches his hand out, but the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night long. And he made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea, the place no one can go because there's water, no water. And it says that they were on dry ground, and the waters was a wall on their right and on their left. It paints a very vivid picture that this was no natural phenomenon, though wind is natural, but the Father made it happen in such a way that there was he created a path, a discernible path. You're going to see there's a right and there's a left. Which way do I go, Father, in this decision? Take the path. How do I know it's a path? It'll have a shape of a path somehow. So the Egyptians kept doing dumb stuff. They pursued. They went into the parted sea, into the midst of it. And all of his Pharaoh's horses and chariots and horsemen. And in the morning, watched the Lord in the pillar of fire and cloud look down upon the Egyptian forces, and he threw the Egyptian forces into a panic. It's interesting. It says, the Lord in the pillar of fire and of cloud. So in the way that he met the needs of all the people, in that way of in that form, in those forms, before them, behind them, lighting the night, helping them have a guide for the day, right? It said that it threw the Egyptian forces into a panic. So the first thing they did was they panicked. So they knew before anything physical was happening, they were already in a panic. That tells me the Father will pursue all hearts. He says, hey, this isn't good what you're doing. Now's the time to panic. Because then they have the cognitive ability to say, whoa, maybe I was wrong. I believe, whatever. And he clogged their chariot wheels so they drove heavily. Now picture that. First they're panicking, and then they're like all slowed down. So they really are not going to get out of this situation. They're slowed down. That's an interesting message too. First you're going to panic, and then you're going to be slowed down. So you can think about this panic. This panic is an important part because the Father wants glory. And you know what is the Lord? Is he loves all the people. He even loves Pharaoh. He loves Pharaoh's army. He doesn't love what they're doing, and he intervened because slavery is not on his docket of stuff he likes. But I see how he's giving these people a chance to think and kind of repent. So they drove heavily, and the Egyptians said, let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians. What they didn't say was, this doesn't seem safe. What they said was, their God is God. He fights for them. What a beautiful thing. You ever have someone say, oh, you're Mama Bear, and you're like, thank you. It's because you take a beautiful love pride in protecting your own. I love that. Then the Lord says to Moshe, and he says, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come back upon the Egyptians. Now, if the story had already ended, and like people didn't have anything to do with that, I think people would prefer that. But guess what? We're not politically correct. It's weird. It's hard to understand. It takes a lot of thought and prayer and trust. Because then the Lord says, after they're saying, hey, their God fights for them. He says, Moshe, you're going to do the thing that the water may come back upon the Egyptians. And here's what's interesting here. He tells him to do it, and he does it. He raises his staff, and the water is going to crash back on them and on their horsemen. And he knows what you're doing is going to wipe this army out. So Moshe stretches out his hand over the sea, and the sea returns to its normal course. Here it doesn't say God did it. It says Moshe did it. Now, of course, God does everything. God did it. But it doesn't go out of its way in the text to tell you like it did in the deliverance. Man will have to make adjustments in the way they think about things to end slavery. And the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. So as it crashes down on them, everything starts being okay again, because that's the way it's supposed to be. And of course, the Egyptians had fled into it, so the Lord had, threw them into the midst of the sea. The waters returned and covered the chariots and horsemen and all of the... Okay, so the Lord, even though it says that the water was by Moses, here, don't miss this. The Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. He himself said, you oppressors and tyrants, this is where you need to go. This is what's good for you. The waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, all of the hosts of Pharaoh that had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. Not one. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right and on their left. So the Lord saved Israel that day from the land of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. So many of their bodies and everything came to the seashore. So it wasn't like they ran immediately away. It was like God's like, you're going to see this. These are going to be dead bodies you're going to see on the seashore. That's really sobering. That's like, have you ever seen just even like a dead jellyfish on the shore at the ocean? And you just like, you're not fond of jellyfish because they sting and hurt you really badly, but it's still sad to see it. Now this is like hundreds and hundreds, 600 chariots and all the other grunt people dead on the seashore. Israel saw the great power that the Lord used against the Egyptians so that the people feared the Lord. They believed in him and his servant Moses. So when you fear him, you believe in him. And what happens when you believe in him? It means you trust him, which means you lean on him, which means you're safe doing things his way. And since he created the universe and all that's in it, he knows how it works and he tells you how to live. Now, lots of death, lots of all kinds of weird stuff. Yes, for sure. But is that not a love letter? Yes, that's a love letter. I'm going to take care of you, and it's going to be weird. Are you in that place right now? I get it if you are. I'm there. I'm with you. And we're out of our time, so we don't even get to go into the New Testament, but we're going to do it next week because I'm going to have part 2, Camel and Gnats. Part 2 next week. So camel and gnats, right? Are we swallowing a camel and straining out gnats? Are we focusing on these psychological wounds that are stupid and to the expense of the unborn? Is that what we've done? Well, a lot of people have. I think more people didn't than did, though. How about that? What does that mean? I think that's good. And I think we can feel good about that. And not always bad about everything. I want you to know, if indeed more people picked good stuff than bad stuff, does not the Father honor that? He has in this biblical pattern. Yes, he has. So I want you to know, not to worry, fear not. He says, stand upright, walk straight ahead. Walk to the dead end and wait for me to do what I do. Now, I don't know what that dead end looks like. And I don't know what the parting of the sea is for this time of our life, but I know we're in a season of getting away from the beast because we are called to. The beast with wrath, the dragon is wroth with, right? If the dragon's not mad at you, why not? Right? So there you go. I know Dr. Halissa Aylwine has a series of The Dragon. I have not seen it yet. I'm going to binge on it in a day or two, if I ever can. That's a lot because she teaches deep and awesome. But I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to, and I can't wait to. And I'll probably correct a few things I said here after watching her because she teaches so great. But anyway, I wanted to kind of bring this up to you today. What's your straw man? What are you stuck in slavery? What are you doing to be fake? How are you not embracing deliverance? I want you to just know deliverance is for you today. This is the portion. This is our Red Sea time. I don't know what that looks like, but be delivered from the inside, regardless of the outside. But there's nothing wrong with lifting your eyes to see, behold, Pharaoh comes after me. I'm in a dead end, but guess what? I'm looking around for miracles because even though I don't know what the miracle is going to look like at all, I know there will be something where my Father takes care of me and does what he thinks is right. That's what faith is. That's what trust is. Love the connection. Thy kingdom come. Thank you, Laura Lee. Oh, I'm a groovy woman. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You are. I'm rubber here glue. Bounces off me. Anyway, I have so enjoyed. Thank you. I really appreciate like the time that we've had today. And, like when I say I'm going to have a harsh word, like I am not used to a harsh word at all, ever, because my job and my lane isn't to be harsh with you. It's to share life with you and show you how it's safe to come into trusting the Father. He will not let you down. Now, never is there a time I'll say, disobey the Torah, whatever, nothing like that. We're no prosperity gospel people here, but we're love gospel. We're about the Father is here to restore all things. And watch last week's teaching to connect this, because we're going to have this will probably be part 2. Last week will be part 1, and we'll do part 3. Because I don't know, we'll see how that's going to be divvied. I'm going to have to figure that out. But you're not a slave. You are a free agent of God to pursue him, because he loves to see what you're going to do to choose him. And the joy of the Lord is your strength. So when he's happy, you're strong. This is a beautiful time to be alive. I don't care what's going on around you. The sea's going to part. I don't know what that looks like. But you're here today for a very particular reason. It's because you're supposed to be. And don't worry, everything, I don't know what it looks like, but I promise you your Father loves you. I promise you he's there for you. And no matter what, the future begins now. Bye.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.